Photosynthesis is a pretty interesting and pretty complicated process that takes some pretty simple ingredients, if you think about it, like water and carbon dioxide, like H2O and CO2, and sunlight, goes through the process of photosynthesis and gives you a glucose molecule and some oxygen, O2. Now, if that process seems a little bit complicated, let's bring up the equation so we can make it a little bit simpler. Okay, so this is what the equation should look like. As I have put it on the screen here, it has 6 waters, 6 carbon dioxides, then it goes through the arrow, and then it gives you 1 glucose molecule and 6 O2s, or oxygen. Now, I don't know if that helps you understand it a little bit, but going through with the sunlight and being absorbed in the chlorophyll, it goes through this reaction, and it's a little bit of a complicated process, so I'm only gonna dive into a little bit of the details. But it's a very interesting process nonetheless. So photosynthesis is the process that happens inside of a eukaryotic chloroplast, where both light-dependent and light-independent reactions occur, which pretty much means reactions occur with light being present and without light being present. But the only one that we have to worry about for this video is the light-dependent reaction, because photosynthesis relies on sunlight, remember, to create both the glucose molecule along with the oxygen. Now, this specific kind of photosynthesis happens on the inner thylakoid membrane, where this incredible process occurs where electrons have to go through different photosystems and different protein channels and all this gibberish that's really complicated, but we're not gonna have to worry about that because all we're doing is trying to make spinach leaves float, right? So how this exactly works is that light or sunlight gets picked up from the chlorophyll inside of the chloroplast that absorbs only specific hues of visible light. In our case, it's mainly going to be red or bluish hues that are being absorbed, as what are being reflected or what we're able to see are yellow or greenish hues. So this will be our ingredient and equipment list. And as far as my experiments go, this list is pretty short. So starting off, you're gonna need probably not this much, but a good amount of sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda, as it pretty much is essentially carbon dioxide. The next thing that you're gonna need are some baby spinach leaves. These leaves work best for this experiment. The next thing that you're gonna need is some kind of hole punch. In my case, we only have a 3-hole punch, but you can use any kind of hole punch that would give you a small circular disc that you could insert into some water. The next thing that you're gonna need is a liquid syringe. So this isn't a kind of syringe with a needle in it or anything like that, but it is able to hold pressure, and you wanna make sure that when you put your thumb on it, it's able to hold back and keep pressure inside of it. And the last thing that you're gonna need is some kind of clear glass. Otherwise, you won't be able to see what's going on inside of your experiment. You're also going to need some kind of light source. So it could be a flashlight, it could be the flashlight on your phone, but in this case, we're gonna be using a little bit more of a heavy duty light. And the last things that you're gonna need is either a tiny whisk or a spoon or a fork or anything so you can mix up your water. So what we're gonna do is split this into a couple different processes. Step 1 is going to be cutting out our tiny spheres with the hole punch. So all I'm going to do is take my spinach leaf, put it on top of one of these holes, cover it up so you can see that there's some green underneath that hole, and you just snap it, you have a little disc. And then you just repeat that 9 more times so you have 10 discs in total. Step 2 is going to be to fill up your whatever container that you're going to be using. It doesn't exactly matter how much water you're gonna be using, because you just wanna make sure you have some water that is saturated with enough sodium bicarbonate. In our case, we just wanna fill it up. And step 3 will be to get your baking soda. So we're just gonna take a pretty big spoonful here, and just so it doesn't spill all over the place. And step 4 is gonna be to mix it up. Just like that, we got some pretty cloudy water. Okay, now step 5. This is going to be pretty much the hardest part of the experiment. So what you're gonna wanna do is take your syringe, and you are going to open it up so there is nothing inside of it. Then we are going to take our little spinach discs and we're going to put them inside of the syringe. Okay, that wasn't actually the hardest part of it, but we're getting to the hardest part. Step 6 is going to be to fill your syringe up with water, but not that much. So I'm going to take my syringe, insert it into the water that we've already made, fill it up to about the 5 milliliter line that we're doing here. And you want to make sure that when you're doing it, there is absolutely no air inside of the syringe. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press on the bottom here. A little bit, air was just coming out there. And as you can see right now, all of the spinach leaves are floating on the very top of the syringe. So what you're going to do is take your thumb and you're gonna stick it on the very top of the syringe, just like this. Then on the bottom, what we're gonna do is pull out the very end of the syringe. So like this, there's suddenly more space inside of the syringe. And then what you're gonna wanna do from there is shake it violently for 10 seconds. And after you're done with that, you can let go of the top. Boing! Now, as you can see, none of the spinach little circles are floating on the top. They're all floating on the bottom here. And that's exactly what you want. Sometimes it doesn't work on the first try. Now that we have all of our spinach leaves, we're coming back to our larger container of water here. So what we're gonna do is we're going to empty all of this back into our larger container. Like this, the water won't fall out and the leaves will go into the cup with all the water, hopefully. So as you can see right now, all of the spinach leaves are on the very bottom of the container. None of them have risen to the top of the container, but that is going to be our goal. I'm not exactly sure what step we're on anymore, but it'll say somewhere on screen what step we're in, but this is the final step. All you're going to do is take your light source, so this will be your flashlight, you'll turn it on, and then you'll put it right on top of your container. And then eventually you should be able to watch the leaves rise. Now that we're done with the experiment, we can see how each specific thing that's involved in photosynthesis, whether it be the carbon dioxide, the water, and the light, is specifically involved to get these spinach leaves to float. Where we basically created the perfect environment with the baking soda, the water, and the light being right on top of the jar that would get these spinach leaves to produce the oxygen to make it float from the bottom to the top of the jar. Now, if we try this experiment again, but without any light source, it's unlikely that the spinach leaves would have moved at all, because it really needs that sunlight or light in general in order to go through photosynthesis. So if you found this information and experiment to be useful or helpful, make sure to click that like button and to subscribe. Thank you for watching.